Hey guys! Welcome to Mama's Boys. In this program, we will meet priests from around the globe. We will discuss interesting features of their lives, from their humble beginnings, their calling, the churches, and more.
Hey guys! In this episode, we are with Reverend Father Raul de los Santos, Parish Priest of St. James the Apostle Parish, Betis, Guagua, Pampanga, commonly known as the Betis Church. Let us get to know more about him up close and personal here on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys.
Hello, Father. Thank you for allowing us to interview you po.
My pleasure.
But first of all po, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
I am a simple priest. I would like to emphasize that a simple priest for the past 32 years. I was ordained in 1986.
Wow.
And I've been with the diocese for longer. Since I was a child, I've been with the church serving as a sacristan. I grew up with the Benedictine sisters in Saint Cos San Fernando. Since grade 2, I remember I've been serving in their masses. And it's there that I got my vocation. Okay, so I entered the seminary in high school. I was inside the seminary, diretso ko hanggang college. And then I had what they call a regency after college, where I worked in a multinational company for 2 years. And then I went back in San Jose Seminary in Ateneo. And that is where I was ordained, 1986. That was people power then. When I was ordained, I was not even sure if the ordination will push through, because everything was in chaos. There was people power. And then when the revolution was over, I realized, I could even be ordained in Malacanang. Yeah.
What is your role or position within the diocese po?
I've been assigned in different commissions and committees. My first assignment is as a seminary formator. I was director of the high school seminary for my first 7 years as a priest. I was director of the high school. And then after that, I only had, would you believe, I only had 4 parishes. Well, in 32 years, other priests would have 10 parishes, 12 parishes. I only had 4 parishes and 2 full-time parishes na 6 years. Yung iba, I just cover up for a priest who died, for a priest who went on leave. Most of the time, I was assigned as a, ongoing formation chairman, personnel, things like that, establishment of new parishes. I was involved in the other committees. And I was even assigned in Galilee, the Center for Priests in Tagaytay for 3 years. Yeah.
So, Father, if I may ask, why did you choose to become a priest po?
Perhaps I could say I did not choose to. I was dreaming of become a PMA when I was in high school. I was tempted to join the U.S. Navy when all my cousins joined the U.S. Navy during that time. Maybe it was God who chose it for me. It was God. I even tried to avoid answering Him when I left the seminary for 2 years. And then I work in a multinational company, as I was saying. I even tried to avoid Him. And I even enrolled in a difficult school sa Ateneo so that I could tell the Lord, well, I tried, but I failed, so let me go. But then, kahit tinatawanan ko lang, kahit hindi ako seryoso, I nakapasok ako, nakaano. So, and then I said, maybe this is it. Maybe the Lord is really calling me. Yeah.
Who are your inspirations, Father, when you choose priesthood po?
First of all, the Benedictine sisters. They played an important role in my vocation. In fact, I think the voice of God is a voice of a Benedictine nun. You know, if you would hear them singing early in the morning, if I should ever walk in the valley of darkness. When I hear those songs, I'm really inspired, I'm touched. So it seems it was that voice that called me to the priesthood. And I don't even know what the priesthood is all about. I just said yes. It was only later on. I think other vocations are the same. It was only as you go through life as a priest that you really discover what it is all about. And of course, my parents and a lot of my classmates in the seminary, they were influential. A lot of people I meet in the apostolate, in my ministry as a seminarian, they all played a role in informing me as a priest as what I am now.
What do you usually do, Father, during your free time? Do you have hobbies, interests?
Yeah, I just rediscovered biking.
Wow.
You know, when I was a young priest, I was first year theology in San Jose Seminary. Father Robert Reyes, you know Father Robert, the running priest. Yeah? I asked him to build me a bike. So what he did, he just took me to Caloocan. We bought spare parts, and he assembled my bike. So in my first year of the priesthood, I was riding a bike. I was going to different parishes, riding a bike. I was going to our recollection, riding a bike. You know, and I enjoyed it. Until and then lumaki na ang tiyan ko. I grew fat, and then I had my stroke one time, so I forgot about it. It was only in this parish I discovered a few EMDC lay ministers who are biking. So I joined them, and since then every Monday morning we bike. And the last trip we had, I was able to cover 30 kilometers. Would you believe? 30 kilometers for 2 hours I was biking straight. So I rediscovered biking. And yet it gives me that quiet. Because while biking, I'm all alone against the wind or with the wind, all quiet. I could do a lot of reflection.
When we return, we will still be with Father Rao. Stay tuned on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. You are still watching Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Please like and share our social media accounts to know more about our Mama's Boys. Back on our interview with Father Rao.
So I rediscovered biking, and yet it gives me that quiet. Because while biking, I'm all alone against the wind or with the wind, all quiet. I could do a lot of reflection. Yeah.
Is it stress-free while biking, Father?
It is. I tell you, it is stress-free. I was able to lower my sugar. I'm diabetic. And I think my heart is beating easier now. Yeah, ganun.
But how was it, Father? How was the situation in your parish during the pandemic po, during the lockdown?
You know, what I experienced during the lockdown was a miracle. Was a miracle. When I announced to the people that we might be closing the church, I will just be saying the mass alone. You are not allowed here. You know, I was crying. I was crying and telling the people that, knowing that they would miss the mass, they would miss hearing the word of God. So I really felt sorry for them. I really felt sorry. So I told them the first few days we were really locked down. So I was just alone saying mass. But then little by little, people started coming back. Of course, we maintained the distance, we maintained the protocol, But since then, we never had a lockdown anymore. And the real miracle is, one parishioner was telling me, during the lockdown, Father, it was so easy to be kind. It was so easy to be kind. Would you believe we were repacking a lot of relief goods, donations? I did not even ask for it. I did not advertise for it. People just came in giving help. Father, add this to what you're giving to the poor. Give this to our kababayan. Give this to people who come to you. We were repacking more than 1,000 relief packages of rice, tuyo, fish, canned goods. The whole, I think the first 3 months of the pandemic, we outdid even the barangay councils.
Is it only the people in Betis who donated those goods, Father?
I think partly, mainly the people of Betis. Mainly the people of Betis. And the people from nearby, and they were just sharing. They were so good at sharing. And then they would not even tell me, don't tell my name, Father. I don't want to be recognized. So we have a lot of anonymous givers, anonymous donors during the pandemic. And I enjoyed it. I did not even appeal for help. People were coming and we were giving help. And the people from Betis who are abroad, I think they played a big role because during the pandemic we're forced to telecast live our masses.
Yes.
So people from Betis who are from other countries, there are people in Canada, States, in France, in London, in Europe, and then they would follow our mass because they're from here. So they follow our mass every day. So they could share. They would want to. In fact, up to now, what we did is the first reading on first Sunday, people from Betis outside the country are doing the first reading. They have been part of our mass. And it's a good apostolate. And we call their group the diaspora.
Wow.
Like the Israel when they were driven out of Israel and then in another country. But still, they contribute, they share. They're part of the Fiesta Committee. They're part of any project we have. We involve them, and they love it. Because they have relatives here, still living in here. Yeah, and they look forward to being able to come home and join our community live.
Even though they're abroad on.
Yeah. So we communicate with them regularly. In fact, we created a group chat with the diaspora, Betis diaspora.
Wow.
And regularly we communicate with them.
Father, you were also part of a TV program which is Men of Light.
Yeah, I love recalling that. Yeah,
Yes,
I had a good time when I was with them.
It is with Bishop Ambo
And Father Deo. Yeah.
Yes, Pone. How was your experience doing this show, and do you have any other projects aside from Men of Light?
Yeah, when we did that show, I believe we were not only doing a show. I felt we were building a small community. And together with all the volunteers, the cameraman, the people who are arranging the light, the set, what we do before we tape a program, we have dinner together, and then we have Bible sharing, and we discuss what we would be airing. That sort of thing. They were so part. They were not only lightman, they were not cameraman. In fact, there was one episode Direct Marilu Diaz-Abaya, who was our director then, he told us, hey, Father, you get the broom. So Bishop Ambo would pick up the broom and sweep, before taping. Direct would always tell us, before we start taping, leave your egos at the door. Leave your egos at the door. So and Apong Deo would start arranging the set, and I'd start nibbling.
You were a pioneer of that.
Yeah, I was the first, a part of the first group. Yeah.
What is your most memorable experience doing that TV show?
Our director then was a fellow priest, Father Ed De Leon, before we invited Marilu Diaz-Abaya. Father Ed used to tell me, you provide the comic relief in the group. And I enjoyed doing it, because Bishop Ambo is very serious and very theological. Father Deo is also a bit of serious, and I would provide the comic relief. And I enjoyed doing that. They would be talking seriously about things in the gospel, and then I would insert about smelling your underarm and things like that.
But Father, I I also watched some of the videos of Men of Life.
Yeah.
And upon watching, I saw one particular thing in the set, which is a grocery basket near you. So, and I come up to realize that they were calling you Father Bayong. Why is that, Father?
It's Father Bayong. It's Apong Seto who baptized me as Father Bayong, you know, because when I said a while ago, I would always love to think of myself as a simple priest. So I don't know how it started. I used to carry a bayong. I put all my things there, my sutana, my kasak, my book before saying mass, and I found it handy. You could throw it anywhere. You could pick anywhere. No one would suspect anything that there is something valuable in there. So I could leave it anywhere. I could carry it anywhere. And since then, I had it as a habit in carrying a bayong. Up to now, I still carry a bayong. I'll show one to you later on.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, Father, please. Can you tell us something about the church, Father? The details of the Betis Church.
I love this church. I love this church. When I was new here, I was amazed. In fact, up to now, I'm still amazed. When I say Mass, I kneel before the tabernacle, and then I look at the altar, and then I would just want to spend my time looking at the altar. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's a century-old church. It is a Betis Heritage Church. It was recognized by the National Historical Commission.
Yes.
And it was declared a heritage church, because of it's called the Sistine Chapel of the Philippines.
When we return, we will still be with Father Rao. All this and more on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Welcome back on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Don't forget to like and share our social media accounts to know more about our Mama's Boys. Back on our interview with Father Rao.
Because everywhere you look, there are paintings and it is the Spanish friars' way of catechizing the Filipinos. That's why they made it this way. Okay, with all the saints in there. Of course, they were saints of Augustinians. And then if you would look at all the paintings, I wish I could show you around, and
Yes,
and I'm sure you have taken pictures of it.
Yes,
there
Father.
there are lessons in everything. From the door, it is a curving of Jacob's dream, dreaming with angels coming down and up the stairways to heaven. That's just the door, And they say, why Jacob? Because Jacob is the Greek or something, the Hebrew word for Santiago.
Oh,
And
okay.
Santiago is their patron.
Yes,
Then when you open the door, on top of the ceiling is a picture of Jesus knocking on the door. That door without any doorknob.
Yes,
And the theology behind it is Jesus could not open. We have to open it from our hearts. Jesus is just inviting. And then on here is the baptismal font. And then you go up the choir loft. There is Saint Cecilia playing the piano on the ceiling. All those paintings. Yeah.
But Father, this church is an Augustinian church,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So,
If I'm not mistaken, it's the third oldest church in the Philippines. The first is Intramuros, next is Lubao, and I think the third is Betis. Yeah.
so what
And it is the only church with wooden planks on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are the challenges, Father, of managing a heritage church?
The people are as old as their church. And there is something positive and negative in that. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're so traditional. They are what we call in Kapampangan. I hope they don't get offended by this. They are what we call kosyang in
Kosyang,
Kapampangan.
yes,
They're so very religious, and I really admire them. I really admire them. They're very holy. They listen to the priest. They listen to the homily. They value their tradition. They value their customs and heritage. They were carpenters.
Yes.
They were carpenters. Most of the people here are carpenters. That's why they have such a beautiful retablo. They did that.
Why is it? I mean, Father, why is it the people of Betis are very artistic po, and they become their church workers, something like that po, Father?
Who knows? Maybe that's what God planned for them. You know, there are some places where most people are farmers. There are some people where most people are working abroad. Maybe for Betis, that is the design of God. That is the design of God. And I've seen them work. It's so beautiful listening to the hammer.
Yes, Father.
What do you call this? On the chisel. And then how they do it. It's like music when you listen to them.
What is your personal view on the heritage conservation, Father? As what you said, the church is a heritage.
Well, first of all, I wish the government have funds. That's the sorry state. They declare a church heritage. They're supposed to protect it, maintain it, things like that. And we could not touch it even. We could not touch it even. And I hope they have funds. But they don't have funds. So we do the everything also. We maintain it and do what we can to preserve it. It's like preserving the values of the people. It's like preserving their tradition. It's like preserving what they have been aware of since they were children, since their grandparents were here. It is like preserving it for them, and it is like honoring them, honoring their faith, honoring their values, honoring their culture. Yeah, that's what it all means. It's not only a church, it's not only a building. Yeah. Nandoon ang dugo nila, lahat ng pananampalataya nila, lahat pinaniniwalaan nila, lahat ng kaugalian nila. Everything in them, everything about them, everything for them is here in the church. And that's why they love the church. And they are so proud of the church. At nahahawa na ako doon. I also love this church and I am proud of it.
What is your message, Father, to the people of Betis? Especially on the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines.
Yeah, it's the same challenge everywhere, where the young people are involved, have different interests, have different outlooks. They now have the media, they now have cell phone, and I hope and I pray that the youth, it's what we're doing now. We're training the youth to be church conscious, to be involved in the church. We're inviting the young children because these older people, whether we like it or not, will be gone in a while. Will rest in peace in a while. So I hope the tradition continues. The love for their heritage, the love for their church, the love for their faith. I hope it continues. And the youth are the ones who would continue this.
How about your message to the people of Betis also on how to preserve their church, especially the Betis Church? And you told us a while ago that it was the Sistine Chapel of the Philippines.
I hope they continue loving the church, and they do. They love the church, and I hope they would always be proud of it, and those things, and they would cherish it. And once they have that, it's so easy. Whatever needs to be done to preserve it, it would be very easy. Once they continue loving the church, they continue keeping the faith, they continue cherishing their culture, being proud of their tradition, and I hope they continue that. And then passing this on to the youth.
Lastly, Father, your message to the young boys who wants to become a priest someday po.
To this, priesthood is very, very beautiful. Never be afraid. Take risk, take challenges, be inspired, continue to be motivated. Do something. I always tell them, just be sure of yourself. Whatever you do for other people, whatever you could do for your family, whatever you could do for your church, whatever you could do for your country, do them. Don't just be for yourself. Don't just be for yourself. Focus on these things. Love of country, we're missing that a lot. A lot of politicians love themselves. A lot of politicians love their families. So very few people love their country. And I hope not only for the youth of today, for the youth of Betis, but also for all youth, instill a love for country in your heart. And the best way to do all those things, be a priest.
Yes.
Be a priest.
Thank you
I
very
enjoy
much.
it.
Father.
Ay, thank you, Karen.
We would like to thank Reverend Father Raul de los Santos, Parish Priest of St. James the Apostle Parish, Betis, Guagua, Pampanga, for making this interview possible.
There you have it, guys. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Mama's Boys. Hope to see you in our future episode. This has been your host, Karen Dane. Jama Taray Shune!